Welcome back to Brew Up Your Yellowdig Skills, our workshop series for educators who are ready to stir more purpose and power into their learning communities. This was Level 3, Triple Shot Espresso, Power User Moves.in. This advanced session, Deborah Olberding didn't hold back. We went full throttle into the tools, tactics, and insights that help Yellowdig pros maximize impact, from interpreting key analytics and fine-tuning community design to scaling engagement across multiple cohorts and semesters. If you're all in on building dynamic, data-informed, learner-centered communities, this is where it all comes together. Let's unpack what we brewed.
We're going to talk about the data. You'll see the fourth pillar. Throughout the sessions that we've had before with Vicki and Allie, we talked about motivation and how Yellowdig motivates the learner to be an active community member as well as the instructor. We also talked about, both Vicki and Allie talked about how to have those course relevant conversations in Yellowdig with the magic that topic tags can bring. Vicki and Allie also talked about facilitator presence, not being that Darth Grader, as we say, but that guide on the side. Enjoying conversing with your students. How much more enjoyable does it get? Today, we're going to talk about data. Okay, what is Yellowdig? So when Yellowdig, our CEO, Shaunak Roy, when he came up, I guess, with the idea of Yellowdig, he noticed, and also the foundation of Yellowdig sits on this diagram right here, which is a complete educational experience. This is a community of inquiry. Those that have taught or instructional designers, I'm sure this looks quite familiar to you. So Yellowdig gives you that platform to basically practice or implement all three things that are needed for a complete educational experience to make it the best place for students to learn. The cognitive presence are those assignments that are created. The tests, the quizzes, the papers, pretty much have that under control. The teaching presence is what the instructor does to pretty much implement the cognitive presence. But it is the social presence that is sometimes assumed is there or ignored altogether. I like to think of being in that big hall lecture classroom, and you're thinking, oh, they're sitting next to each other. The social presence, check the box. But not so much. What we mean by social presence is that place to share ideas, to bring in content, to bring in real world experience, and to really collaborate with peers, right? And have those true conversations that make the learning even deeper and the understanding even deeper. But a lot of times they don't have the platform or the space to do that. And that's what Yellowdig gives the learner and the instructor. It gives them that place to apply the social presence to make sure they have a complete educational experience. Now, throughout the data that we're going to talk about today, I will really always go back to the social presence. I really want you to keep that up front and center because, again, when we're thinking about that complete educational experience that you want your students to have, that's something that we need to make sure is in place. Okay, so we're going to shift from prompts because a lot of times discussion boards are used or thought of as, okay, that's where the social presence can happen. That's where the conversations that can happen. That's where the sharing of ideas can happen. But we know not so much. It doesn't happen, right? Because in a discussion board, we have the question that's asked. You see the icon for the instructor. Students answer at the due date. And then that's done for the week. But then you have the go-getter that has no one to really converse with, no one that can expand on social presence, no one that can connect that part of the complete educational experience because there's no one there. And they're not really staying in the community, or excuse me, in the discussion board to develop that social presence. They're completing an assignment and moving on. So you see as the go-getter here, the green icon, decides just to join the crowd, right? And come in at the end of the week. Okay. And also one thing that I think back to my experiences when using a discussion board, and really it seems kind of unlogical to say, okay, we've talked about this in week one. Don't bring it up in the rest of the weeks when we're talking or when we have another discussion question. We're just going to focus on that one. But we know as true educators that the learning process is a synthesis of ideas that constructs knowledge throughout the entire course. And so that's where Yellowdig comes in. Here's is true social presence and the platform that offers the students to apply and develop that social presence. Because you see the instructor at the beginning may come in to start a conversation, not give a prompt, but there are course relevant topic tags that they're going to be talking about. You can see the conversation may start because a student has a question. Again, that social presence of being able to talk with each other, question each other, bring in external information, and add to the content of the course. Now, notice the dotted lines. Sure, you can bring a concept or a topic tag that we talked about in week 2 or week 1 or week 3 and connect it to 5, connect it to what we talk about in 6. That's, again, that part of the complete educational experience that truly moves the learner on in their educational journey. So using data to inform teaching. We're going to jump into the platform now, and we're going to see how it really looks and where to find that data. Let's see, Tamara, are we going to launch the poll?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great. Now would be a good time. Okay, as you can see, our first poll question, how would you describe your current use of Yellowdig Analytics? You may not be familiar with it at all, and that may be obviously why you're here today. Great. Check them occasionally. I like to see that. Good. That's a first start in the right direction. Wonderful. I've built strategies around them. Love that because that's what data is all about. Great. The second poll question, what's your biggest challenge in scaling Yellowdig across courses or programs? Consistency across communities seems to be something that we need to talk about a little bit more as well. And that consistency is valuable for the students, right? Because they know what their expectations are, and setting those expectations right off the bat, and everyone setting the same expectations is important for that consistency. Wonderful. Okay, we have a lot not using it yet. Nice. Okay. We will definitely, you'll feel more empowered after today's session to use the data. Most important for long-time community success. Smart use of data. Very good. Oh, I love it. Student ownership and leadership has a high 32%. That is so true because in Yellowdig, you're empowering your students and helping them feel like it is truly their community. And there's some tactics to do that as well. Okay. Somewhat confident seems to be the popular answer for number 5. So hopefully today at the end of this session, we'll have very confident. We have a couple that could lead a session on it. Nice, nice. Okay, good. a quick little formative assessment for me right there. So we can definitely come back to that. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat. Thank you. Thank you, Tamara. Okay, let's get into Yellowdig. As you have probably seen, especially if you've been at our last couple webinars, this is what Yellowdig looks like. And also we have some current users. So again, Yellowdig is a single scroll, single assignment, looks like social media, but it's not. It's a safe space for students to build that social presence, a safe place for them to help each other, connect with each other, create that sense of belonging, and really feel like they are empowered and can show leadership as one of the poll questions asked. Love that. And that was the most popular answer. So today we're going to dive into the data of Yellowdig, and as we said at the beginning, how that can help us in a formative assessment type way to make sure we're meeting the needs of our learners. So over on the left, and a couple of you, or we should say the majority of you, kind of have talked about how you've tiptoed in it a bit. And again, the third level, and this is our third session, maybe this may be a good time now to really dive into your communities after this session and get a good look at your data. So community health is always the first place that I like to go, and I suggest that you go to see basically what is happening in your community. And it's just that, how healthy is my community? You will see, we always point out, and if you've met with a success manager in the past, they have probably focused on this number right here, first of all. And what that number shows, and this is something you can check on maybe even weekly. And then we'll talk about some strategies on how to improve your conversation ratio if you find out it's really not moving from 3. It's tough to say, but we like to, a typical discussion board, the conversation ratio is 2 comments per 1 post. So in Yellowdig, if best practices are used and we're not using it as a fancy discussion board, you should see the conversation ratio anywhere from 3 to 8. The reason, even 5 to 8, the reason this one is a little bit lower than 5 is for the simple fact this is a demo community. And so, of course, we are not in here as much as your students would be in a Yellowdig community to get the conversation ratio up. Now, higher conversation ratios basically means more back and forth conversations, more social connection, more social presence. I always want to kind of go back to the Venn diagram we talked about at the beginning, and that social presence drives student learning. When you think of that social presence and a high conversation ratio, you're thinking about maybe students teaching students in a way. Maybe they have a question. And so when they're going to explain the answer to that question, think of the learning that's happening, not only to understand it, but apply it and explain it. So again, having that platform and that space where that can happen, that's what Yellowdig gives you. We always look at the comments and posts.
Deb,
Yes.
sorry.
Uh-huh.
Sorry to interrupt.
No,
Sorry
no
to
problem.
interrupt everyone. I just want to give everyone a heads up. Our marketing friend Tamara has already sent on the chat the instructions for you to get your gift card if you didn't get it, right? So take a look there. All the information is there, right? You don't need to write all your emails here in the chat. There is an email that you can send all the information, all right? Thank you, and I'm so sorry, Deb.
No, right. I saw the chat blowing up, so that's good to address that. Thank you. Thanks. Yes. We have talked a lot about coffee, so we understand the need for that gift card. We've constantly talked about coffee. Okay, so more comments and posts, that's what gives you the high conversation ratio. And also you can see the activity log below that. Accolades. I think it's important to realize the importance of accolades and look at the data of accolades. In other words, we like to see them spread out throughout the weeks of the course. and not given, like we say, like candy. I mean, they have to be earned, right? And it's a special thing when they get an accolade. One other thing I wanted to point out here, showing activity, this is for all time. But if you want to check your conversation ratio within a certain time frame, you can go up to the top and pick that time frame. And like I said, a lot of instructors too use this as a challenge for their students. Like, how do we get the conversation ratio to 5? Well, we have these conversations. Let's continue the conversation with what we're talking about, not continually posting. So to me, this is the go-to place, kind of at the beginning level of understanding data in your Yellowdig community. Now, the next piece of information that is very important to inform your instruction, and this is probably my favorite piece of data that I use most often in Yellowdig, and I talk to instructors about it. Topic tags. Now, in session 1 and session 2, both Ali and Vicki really talked about the importance of creating those course relevant topic tags that are student friendly, that are not week 1, week 2, not a learning objective, not a module name, but topics. And what I mean by topics are those student friendly, course relevant concepts that you want them to have conversations about. And once you create them, it's not like you can't go back. And that's where the action research, if you will, using the data to actually inform your instruction happens with topic tags. And let me tell you how. For example, we have all of your topic tags here. You can see the percentage of total posts by a specific topic tag. So it's telling you a couple things. Well, it may tell you that, yeah, you've talked about behavior change a lot in your course. So of course that one's going to be used more. But what if you've talked about behavioral psychology a lot and you really want to see that kind of pick up the pace in a way? What you can do to use this data as an instructor is comment on a post or a conversation that's using this topic tag, and I'll show you how you can find that out. And also, if it's really like what is going on? We've had so much information about business organization and that hasn't been used at all. You can even go as far as creating a post, although we like you to comment in Yellowdig more than posting, but creating a post with this topic tag with maybe an article, maybe connection to real life that's happening at Wall Street or whatever the case may be. And even pen it for a little bit if you really want some conversation to go. What I want to remind you of, when you comment, it's going to bring that conversation to the top. Or when you give an accolade that maybe is using the learning and memory topic tag, and that's one you want to get going a little bit more, or stress and health psychology, that again is going to bring it to the top. So this data can really help you in a formative way to A, see which ones are being used, the percentage of total posts that are using this topic tag, and B, which ones you want to bring to the student's attention, either by commenting, posting, or giving an accolade. But again, your presence, how nice is it that you don't have to be grading in Yellowdig, but you do need to be an active citizen in Yellowdig, an active community member. I always use the example of when I taught, and after my class, we would go to the cafeteria, and I would go with obviously some of the students that we just got out of class with. Those topics we talked about were, yes, course relevant, and some things they brought to the table, literally the table at lunch in the cafeteria, were those things I wanted to continue the conversation in Yellowdig. So if I would have had Yellowdig back then, I would have gone in and added some more topic tags after lunch because obviously they wanted to carry that conversation on. Now, so this is a great resource for topics and using that information. Now, what if, like I just said, they weren't using motivation and emotion too much, and you're kind of wondering why? Maybe you've commented on a conversation. Maybe you've given an accolade, but there's another thing you can do. Because of that data we just saw, you can move it to the top. Because then when they go to create their post, they're going to see this one right there. And they're going to think, oh, I can connect this one. And again, they can use 3 of them together. That's that whole synthesis of information that we love and strive for in education. So you can see that not only is it important to kind of do an audit of your topic tags, maybe they have learned or they have used this one too much. And you're like, okay, we need to move on. You can go to the edit and you can disable it, which means they will not see it anymore. Or maybe you want to keep it there so they see it, but you want to disable the points. Again, because of the data that you saw in the community health under topic, you have decided to either disable a topic or disable the points. Now, if you disable the points, like this topic tag has been, you will see that it is dotted. It's not solid. And, maybe a quick little FYI to the students. You now see some of the topic tags are not solid. They're no longer point bearing. And as you go through the topic tags, again, from the information you got from the data about the topic tags, you will see that we call them, and I love them, the fun ones. Not that, the course relevant ones aren't fun, but I always like to see fun ones because, again, the community building ones, kind of reading the room to figure out what the students really like to talk about. Again, that's a formative type assessment in data. And you can, again, add topic tags as you go. Maybe you see the summary with our new AI feature that summarizes the within the last 7 days or 24 hours. And you take that information and you make it a topic tag. Okay, so again, back to data. We've talked about community health. We're going to go now on to the points report. The points report is another piece of data, and as you can see on the left, you may have gotten to community health, but these other ones a little farther down and taking a little more time will be worth your time to check in as well. So the points report, as you can see here, it gives you everyone's participation log, basically. Now, students have their own wealth of information and have all of this information as well within the point earning widget, which I'll go back to in a minute. I'm going to show you the point earning widget again, and I'm also going to show you the filter. Okay, so you can see here at the click of a button, you can see who has earned their points and when. You can also download any detailed log points you would like, point summary, community report. This all is downloaded in a CVS file. And of course you can transfer it over, export it to another type of file if you would like. You can also adjust points here, which, there's really usually no need unless, a student has had some type of emergency for a few weeks. But this data here, at the click of a button, you can see exactly how and when this person has earned their points. And the reason this is so important is, twofold. They may be reaching out to you to say like, okay, why didn't I get points? What is a point goal? I don't see that I got any points this week. But even more importantly is to suggest going to their point earning widget, and they can see all of that information as well. So you have data, but the students have data as well. And so, like I said, when we get back to the main screen, I will show you what that looks like. I want to cover these points: member report, community report, and network graph. So member report is just that. You click here to generate that report. And here is an informational article that tells you everything about these reports and also a data dictionary. So within this area that we just saw, the member report, you can also click on that tab, and it will show you what all of the information in the report means. Same with the community report. And again, I could download one, but what you'd see is just a lot of numbers and a lot of names, and which would make a lot of sense to you for our demo community. But the last one that we hear that a lot of folks love is this community connection. They like the visual, but some are not the visual type learner that this might make them give them a headache. So you can do the table version. But what this is nice at a glance, and when you hover over this information, you can see who has been active in the community and when their last interaction was. Okay, and this you can also move these to make a circle. And you could also, like I said, put it in table format if that's more of the ingoing and outgoing connections that that specific student has. So data, 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 data. It's just taking the time to see what you need for your benefit to make it the best community that you can. Okay, so we have talked about community health, which is my favorite. We've talked about points report. We've talked about member report. We've talked about community report, basically where you find these and what they mean. And we've also just talked about the network graph. One other type of data that really, again, it's an action item type data for you to keep on top of it of who has joined the community and who has not joined the community. This is, I would say a new feature within the last year or so. We have the MLS or roster management. Again, what this shows is all the people that are enrolled, all the students, the learners that are enrolled in your course. And once they have accessed the Yellowdig community, their name goes away, right? So as far as the data aspect of it, good time, especially that first week of the course to make sure everyone has access to their Yellowdig community through their LMS. That has to be done for the LMS to talk to Yellowdig, to talk to the gradebook. Once they've done that, they can pull it up through the app or they can go directly into Yellowdig. But the first time, as most of you know, it has to be through the LMS to make that connection. The two systems talk to each other. One other thing I wanted to talk about that I'm not going to dive that much into it, but we do have the option to get your data through your API. Now, that basically is when you're looking for a self-serve type way to see the ebb and flow of your community with specific details about posts and comments and times of posts and comments and students with posts and comments. You want to really dig deep into that type of data. This is the best way to do it for you self-serving your own data. And if you haven't done the API with Yellowdig and you are interested in that type of detailed data, this would be your best bet. And also, I just wanted to remind you, your Yellowdig support can also contact the success managers, and we can do some behind the scenes data information too that gives you network engagement and also gives you community health for your communities in Yellowdig. So data, 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 data. We have a lot. We have a lot, and we hope that you find all of this valuable that's within the platform. Okay, one thing I did want to talk about that I said I would come back to help you with data is filtering. You know, we talked about using the topic tags and truly understanding with that data within the community health, which ones are being used and the percentage. And like we know, you can do the filtering with topic and even a date or even by a member. But if you see that topic tag is not being used that much, this is a great way to find out where it is being used and how you can jump into the conversation. Also, I like to mention this as a type of data because, again, it's more of narrative data, if you will, more so than numeric. It's that qualitative more so than quantitative. But if you look at the last 24 hours or the last 7 days, and again, this is our demo, so we're probably not going to have anything in here, it will give you a detailed summary of what's been happening in your community, meaning what's been popular conversations and what have they come back to. That can be used as data to create maybe a new topic tag because, wow, they're really getting into this. And it does connect with the course. Or maybe they're getting into talking about job opportunities or networking. You're like, wait, I don't want them to do that. Well, if it's something that builds community and they're interested in finding more, you can make it a non-point bearing topic tag. Okay, so we have the filter, we have the community recap that we talked about. And again, I'm going to show you where that data is found, obviously under data, where you can look at your topics and do a type of action that goes with the data you found, where you can make them non-point bearing, or you can even disable them for a minute or a while, I should say, because they've overused them. And then management again is where you find the LMS roster management feature. So that is a lot of information about data within the platform and beyond, outside as well. But I think just starting to look at what you have and see what data meets your needs. And if you're not seeing what you want, please reach out because, like I said, we do have some internal resources that we can help you with as well. And if you want a more deep dive into data with what you can do within your institution, the API would be the way to go. Okay, now we are going to transition back to our topic tags, or not topic tags, back to our slide deck. Okay, so we did just talk about using data to inform teaching. Again, looking at topic tags, looking at your conversation ratio, looking at your community recap, looking at the data within the platform and your points report. So this is what we've just talked about, key reports to explore. And then after this webinar, if you have some time, please feel free to jump into your community because now you may understand a little bit more what those numbers mean and how they can help you make the community that you have the best it can be. We talked about community health. We talked about points report, network graph, topic report, all of these right here. There is a resource that you will be sent, and the title of that resource is Community Through Analytics, and it will have all of the data analytics and reports in one place. So that'll be a great reference. And again, after this session, you'll be receiving the recordings from all 3 sessions along with any valuable resources we think you would enjoy. Okay, so we've talked about Yellowdig's platform and the reports in the platform. And just so, again, you can tell I'm a teacher for sure. I'm going to, at heart, I guess I should say, I'm going to review a little bit of what we talked about. Connecting it to the reports in the platform, the topic report, again, I got to say this is my favorite, just because of the formative assessment and information and how you can change. If you go into your topics and go into the topic report and kind of do an audit, if you will, that's what I like to call it, definitely at the end of your course, but I like to see that happen throughout the course because topic tags is what keeps those vibrant and organic conversations going, along with you being an active community member. Okay, and as we saw when we were in the member report, it is under data, member report, and you can download it as a CSV file. And also, as I pointed out, you have the information that explains everything in those reports right here. We also talked about a community report, which looks like the same format as a member report, but of course it gives you different information. It gives you a little summary right there. Okay, so let's kind of talk about the why of data and Yellowdig. I mean, it's basically the why of everything in data, right? Because without data, you have a hard time of truly knowing what is happening in a community. So that's why we make data easy to get to. That's why Yellowdig has data that's easy to understand. And also Yellowdig has data that is actionable. In other words, you see it and you can do something within the community to increase that data, increase the numbers, get more engagement with specific topic tags, look at the participation log of certain students. So what leads to the great data? Well, open conversations. You're not going to see that high conversation ratio if you prompt. You're not going to see the development of the social presence that is so important, along with cognitive and teaching. You're not going to see that if they don't have the platform, aka Yellowdig, and the best practices to develop that social presence, to apply that social presence. Now, the point system in Yellowdig is a motivator, and obviously that increases participation, which increases conversation, which increases your conversation ratio. But it's something that we have figured out what works to really promote the social presence. Like, how can they socially be present in Yellowdig and reach their weekly point earning goal? So we highly encourage you to kind of let Yellowdig's point system do its thing, and you decide what percentage of the grade Yellowdig will be. That's where it's going to be 10%. And then Yellowdig and Canvas, or whatever the LMS is, does the math for you. Social points. We cannot stress this enough. That positive community behavior. And when you think of wanting to get that data that you want to see in your community, it really happens with positive community behavior on your part, and of course the part of the students. Now you're thinking, how long does it take? I don't have time to go in and respond to everyone and give everyone an accolade. No, that's not the goal. You are to go in and basically have conversations, be a citizen, be at that table in the cafeteria with your students, right? And I don't know about you, but that was my favorite part of teaching, was that connection I had with the students. And you can have that in Yellowdig. We always say, again, here we go with the coffee thing. We always say coffee and Yellowdig is a great combination, for the simple fact you can come in when you have your morning coffee, like you do with other social media, right? If you're into that at all, or LinkedIn. 15, 20 minutes every morning, kind of get a vibe, do the community recap, give some accolades, comment. You're seeing you look at your topics, you're like, man, I can't believe they're not talking about this much. Let me find a conversation. Let me connect to it. Let me comment. It comes to the top, and then you can go on your way. Now, student engagement. We know that students that are engaged have better academic performance. Why? Because they have that social presence that's connecting to the cognitive presence, that's connecting to the teacher presence, which all three are needed to be a complete educational experience. And low conversation ratios, if they're not involved with conversations, digging deeper, expanding on the content, that's not going to be probably a win-win for them. They're going to want to do that. And if you make the vibrant Yellowdig community where you're an active member, it's probably going to happen more than likely. Okay, so we've had a lot of clients use Yellowdig, and again, in a way that they have hundreds of students in their Yellowdig community. Data is really important, right? Not only is data important, but think about not having to read every post, which you should never do in Yellowdig, nor should you have to, but having the conversation recap, having the at mentions or at community, right? Having the use of and the availability of using accolades to promote that behavior, using the search, filter, sort, and reports. Look at your points report, look at your topics, look at your member report. And so by a click of a button, because when there is so many students in your Yellowdig community, you can really have a good view of everything in your community by tapping into the data and the reports we just talked about. Okay, when we talk about scaling across departments, I think that was one of our poll questions. And I think one of them was too, you talked about, I think one of the popular responses was not kind of using it the same way. Here at Yellowdig, our success team, Vicki and Ale and I, we want you to enjoy Yellowdig. And the way that you and your students can enjoy Yellowdig is by using best practices. And we're finding more and more clients come back and it's like, oh my gosh, it makes such a difference when you do use best practices because it's just more enjoyable. I always compare it to trying to put a round peg in a square hole. If you're using it like a fancy discussion board, it's going to be frustrating because that's not how it was meant to be used. Okay, in Yellowdig Academy, which is coming back soon, you will see this page in Yellowdig Academy that has all the reports we talked about and how they can be beneficial for a large course. Okay, resources for power users. Again, as we talked at the beginning of the session, you will receive recordings, you will receive the information that we referenced. You will also, and we can always encourage, please, if you haven't taken the instructor certification course, that will help you connect the dots, help you understand the why of Yellowdig, and help you understand why the best practices is so important when building a Yellowdig community. Also, we'll also send you the information about the API documentation. And if that's something you want to look into to really get more of a deeper dive into your data. We also have knowledge base articles, which are found on our website. So at a click of a button, hopefully you'll find everything you need, plus more. And we'll also, like I said, be following up with this information. Okay, thank you. Thank you for attending today. We appreciate you all so much. And we love working with our clients. So if you have any questions, anything you want to just brainstorm with, a lot of times I'll just say, let's have a brainstorm session, because what you have learned about in these 3 sessions, you may have a really good idea about using Yellowdig to encourage that social presence for that complete educational experience. And also, if you have any technical support, or if you're, or excuse me, you have any technical issues, or your students are, please do not try to fix that. We'll do that, right? And we love talking to your students. So we have our support at yellowdig.com to help you with any technical issues. Okay, that is a wrap. I'm going to stop.
That's a wrap on Triple Shot Espresso, our 3rd and final session in the Brew Up Your Yellowdig Skills Workshop series. We truly hope you've enjoyed the ride, learned something new in every session, and are feeling inspired to take your Yellowdig communities even further. Whether you joined us for one workshop or all 3, thank you for being part of this experience. And remember, this doesn't have to be goodbye. You can always stay connected, explore more resources, and reach out at yellowdig.co.untl next time. Keep the conversations flowing and keep your community brewing.